Welcome to the Blues Chronicles from the Burgh, documenting the Pittsburgh blues scene, its music and people. Part 2 features Bill Weiner. Bill Weiner has successfully mastered the rag blues of the 30s and 40s. He beckons you, the listener, to embrace his mission, to preserve the hit music as he takes you down a historic, highly flavored musical journey. Bill, welcome to the Blues Chronicle and RMU Radio.
Hi, Don.
Glad you could make it, Bill, and be a part of this documenting the blues scene in Pittsburgh. So, Bill, how about just a little background about you?
Well, I'm 74 years old, so I've been around for a while. I started listening to blues music in high school, particularly listening to Leadbelly. And I started playing guitar after I graduated from high school. Came across a person who I would call my guru, who I listened to this fellow, and that inspired me to start playing.
That's cool. What got you interested in the blues, Bill?
Well, I went to high school in eastern Pennsylvania. There was a lot of musics that we listened to. The late 50s was a very prolific amount of musics that were being recorded. Just to give you an example or two, there was rock and roll that was being created. Rhythm and blues came up from the 40s. When I first heard this fellow, his name was Mike Stewart, he was doing stuff that I felt I could do. In other words, I could listen to the modern jazz quartet and like them, but there's no way I could ever play them because there's 4 guys and I couldn't play that complicated kind of music. But this country blues stuff was basically oftentimes a person and his guitar. So it was the art of the possible for me to want to be able to play this stuff.
Man and his guitar, that's the blues, man.
Yeah,
that is.
It's a lot simpler and less complex than say jazz.
What got you interested? There's a couple you had mentioned while we had talked before the interview, Scrapper Blackwell, Leroy Carr. What got you interested in that old sound like that?
Well, as I said, the first guy I heard was Leadbelly. He had this powerful voice. Now, he had died in 49, and I probably first heard him around 58. A couple of 10-inch, 33 RPM records produced by a guy named Moses Ash. But I was impressed with the music. It's just different from other musics I'd ever heard. And he was more I call a folk blues musician because he had a lot of folk music. But what got me into it was the fact that I could play it. And playing this stuff is like you're crossing all these boundaries. In the 50s, they're pushing high fidelity. The record companies, we want to have the highest fidelity. But really, when you go and listen to 20s blues on 78s, you're listening to something that's from the South, that's on a scratchy record. And so you're crossing time and space and culture to start getting into this music and loving it. And it's just completely different from stuff I'd ever heard before.
And your shows involved taking a lot of music that was originally performed on piano and then bringing it over and performing it on guitar. What's involved in that? I don't know anything about doing that. I can't do it.
I just say that for most of my life, my thing was to play or recreate these blues songs from these old blues artists. Somebody might have heard of Mississippi John Hurt. That was one of the first things, guys you want to play to learn how to finger pick. In my life, I spent learning my favorite songs. Nobody's pressuring me to work for them or do anything. I'm just all doing this. This is my muse. I'm just doing this because I love this song, so I want to learn it, or I can learn it. And you go to different artists, and my thing was to always learn something by a new artist, one song, one of the styles by an artist. But learning to do arrangements of a piano was something that I got into in the last few years. The guy I play is Leroy Carr, and he was a piano player in the late 20s and early 30s. He was an alcoholic, and he died very young at the age of 30. But in 1928, he came out with a song called How Long Blues. And this was, by the way, when blues was black pop music. It's really not really folk music, but it's pop music. It was the hottest thing by fall 28. And he played with a fellow named Scrapper Blackwell. Scrapper Blackwell was from North Carolina. He was part Cherokee Indian and part black, and Leroy Carr was originally from Nashville, Tennessee. They both had migrated to Indianapolis. But they became the hottest act in blues, this duo, in the late 20s and early 30s, till Leroy Carr died in 1935. So what I did was I learned Scrapper's part first, maybe some years ago, and then realizing, oh wait, I can figure out how to do Leroy Carr stuff because he's just playing the same chording as Scrapper Blackwell is. So once I learned how to do Scrapper, I could start putting Leroy Carr's music and playing his music sort of as the base of Scrapper's more treble type notes, just picking notes. So I could start doing both. I integrated the two styles to do my style of playing their music. And that's what I call my show, Leroy Carr Review, the poetry of Leroy Carr.
That's interesting. I've seen some of the material that you bring to your shows. You actually bring information sheets and what have you, don't you?
I mean, obviously I have a set list, and but I can romance the guy. Mm-hmm. When I say that he is considered by historians as he was the most popular blues band in the 20s and 30s, this duo. His tone set the tone for people like Ray Charles and Sam Cooke and Otis Redding. And he also, his boogie style influenced people like Ike Turner, Chuck Berry. So this guy had a tremendous influence. And of course, we were segregated, so his music wasn't marketed to white people. It was only marketed through record stores in black neighborhoods.
And just for the occasion of having you on the Blues Chronicles, I have a nice T-shirt that Blues Before Sunrise, performed by Ray Charles, but who's the original writer of that song is none other.
Leroy Carr.
That's right. Pulled it out of the drawer just for today, Bill. But yeah, and even for me, I know the song Blues Before Sunrise, but I didn't know it was a Leroy Carr song.
Yeah, the way he played, I played on guitar, and I also play it the way Scrapper Blackwell played it when he recorded it in the 60s on guitar. It's a different way of playing it. Mm-hmm. But they both played it at different times. Scrapper lived to be to the early 60s.
Bill, you've been performing for, a number of years, and you keep doing that. What inspires you to play, to sing, to perform? What keeps you doing that?
I get my enjoyment out of moving people with my music. The music moves me, and so I just want to be the conduit to move other people. In other words, I enjoy playing this music, this music which covers a lot of different bases, and enough to make it into an entertainment. I enjoy playing for people because I think the music should be inspiring to them.
Yeah. All right. And I think we're going to take a little break and head on down to the studio and get set up for you to perform a couple songs live for us. Okay. In the meantime, I think we'll take a little break, listen to some of your music for a little bit, and then we'll be right back at the TV studio.
Come, my darling, come, my love, unlock that door. The skies above are leaking on my bed. Papa's in the rain, getting all wet, getting all wet, getting all wet. And if I die, you will regret. Papa has no place to go. You got a nice warm room, and so share it with Papa. And don't forget, Papa's in the rain, getting all wet. I've been told, hear me cough, catching cold. If I die, you will regret. Papa's in the rain, getting all wet, getting all wet, getting all wet. And if I die, you will regret. Papa has no coat at all. You
got a raincoat in your hall. Share it with Papa, and don't forget, Papa's in the rain, getting all wet. The suit you bought me was too small. You knucklehead, you knew it all. It lets me stand, but I can't bend. Papa's in the rain, getting all wet, getting all wet, getting all wet. And if I die, you will regret. Papa must eat or he will die. You got pork chops, you got pie. Share it with Papa, and don't forget, Papa's in the rain, getting all wet. Getting all wet, getting all wet, and if I die, you will regret. Graveyard's such a lonesome place, don't want dirt shoved in my face. Pity your Papa, and don't forget, Papa's in the rain, getting all wet.
That was pretty cool, Bill. Like that. Like that a
right.
lot. Do you do some of your own material during your shows too?
Very little.
Mm-hmm.
I took one song, Leroy Carr's song, wrote a song called "She Likes to Bobo." Well, I never knew what Bobo meant. Well, I found out it means it was a dance. So I got a friend named Bob Gabick, who's a songwriter here in Pittsburgh. And I said, well, I'm going to do one, she likes to boogie. Oh, no, he says, that's too common. Everybody says that. Why don't you try something else? I says, she likes to Google. Mm-hmm. So I made a song and I made verses on that. Some gal that spends all her time behind the computer looking at Google. And so I wrote that, in that sense, I wrote that song.
Well, you got to keep the process going too, that's
Yeah.
for sure. So you've touched on some of the artists like Leroy and Scrapper Blackwell. What other artists have influenced you? Maybe a mentor or someone that's had a lot of influence on your career?
Well, this fellow, his name was Mike Stewart. He was my main influence. I would say that hearing him slightly high was enough to, I would call that my epiphany. This guy was playing his versions of some of the old country blues guys. And I just sat at the foot of the master and listened to this. I think we were both about 18 years old. It was in 61, but Mike was a contemporary. And I spent a whole year trying to learn one of his songs.
A whole year?
Scratch. Which was, I didn't go through all that Merle Travis stuff. I just went directly to this song and see if I can figure out how to play it. But I just like to listen to the 78s. Mm-hmm. I had a friend, Ernie Hawkins, who played a fellow named Reverend Gary Davis. Mm-hmm. Now, he was, a lot of people in my generation really love this guy, like Jorma Kaukonen.
I know Jorma, yeah.
And so I did take one lesson from Reverend Gary Davis. I learned how to play one of his songs. But I really didn't have the right hands for playing his stuff. Meanwhile, I thought Ernie was the best Reverend Gary Davis player out there. I used to play with Ernie off and on for about 25 years, and I figured he was the best guy out there. So I pretty much backed up Ernie when we played together.
What does the blues mean to you?
It means to me, and I assume means to modern people, to everybody, that it's songs about life and life's challenges. The first song that Leroy Carr recorded was How Long Blues. The other side of it was called My Old Lonesome Blues. And the first verse in this song was, did you ever wake up in the morning with your mind going two different ways? Did you ever wake up in the morning with your mind going two different ways? One mind is to leave your baby, the other mind is to stay. So I say to myself, gee, I bet you there are a lot of people that have had that emotion in their lives, and it's one of them ideas that we all go through, or most of us go through if we're going to think about change, making a change.
That common thread. I'd like to think the blues is the common thread.
Yeah.
And that works.
Yeah.
That works. So, little off. What's your playing style? Do you finger pick? Do you use a pick? How do you play?
Don't use a pick. I always like the feeling of my flesh against the strings. I actually, the first person I ever played music with or heard was my brother. He played ukulele, 4-string. So, I'm going to do better than you. I'm going to get a 6-string instrument, so I got a guitar. But John, my brother, kind of had a thing where you just kind of take your hand and I don't know how to describe it, but you're just taking your hand and creating rhythms with your hand, not finger picking.
Mm-hmm.
My style has evolved sort of from finger picking back into this sort of half strumming, half finger picking style. I don't know anybody that plays sounds exactly the way I play it, but that seems to be most comfortable for me.
That might be a easier way to even feel what you're playing when you're just playing it with your fingers. And so.
Yeah, I like to whoop the strings with the back of my middle finger and index finger. I can whoop them down and get a nice tympanic, or it's a hard sound in the bottom with it.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. How about the state of the blues in general and the state of the blues in the Pittsburgh region?
I'm sort of on the fringe, I think, as far as Pittsburgh blues, because I'm not an electric player, and I don't play modern stuff. I've gone all the way back to the 1920s, and I play acoustic blues. There are people out there that do that, but I would say that I have a little niche of my own, and I'm trying to get to more jobs and get to be known here in Pittsburgh better. Me and my friend Al Taylor won the contest at the Blues Society about 2 years ago. We went down to Memphis.
Big stuff there, Bill. Yeah, that was really cool. And again, that was the first time I got to see you perform recently, and pretty neat stuff. I like that. All right, so your second song, Muddy Waters.
It's just one of those, I guess you'd call it pop philosophy songs, which, and it also has some sexual reference in the last verse. He would just bounce around that with these subjects that you'll hear when I sing this song.
Okay, well, pretty cool. Let's get right to it and hear that one.
When you see muddy waters backing up to your door, and the one that you love says she don't want you no more. Oh, the river was rising right back to my door. Every time it rains, I have to go. Didn't the river look lonesome when I went wading across? Yeah, one time I thought the poor boy was lost. I went up on the mountain to see the rising sun. I wondered which way that river runs. late in the evening, after the sun goes down, well, me and my baby, we do the mess around. Early last evening, my bed had fallen down. Well, me and my baby going round and round and round and round.
All right, another good one, Bill. I like that.
Thank you.
Like that. All right. Well, that wraps it up for the second part of the Blues Chronicles from the Burgh. Again, just a real big thanks to Bill Weiner for coming into RMU and taking the time and being a part of this really, really great project. Thanks again, Bill.
Thank you so much.
And this has been Blues Chronicles from the Burgh, documenting the Pittsburgh blues scene, its music and people. Part 2 featuring Bill Weiner, a RMU Radio Blues Society of Western Pennsylvania production.
Yes, I ain't gonna be your low-down dog no more. Yes, I ain't gonna be your low-down dog no more. My train is at the